We still have an electorate, 70 million plus, that will be voting for a man who said he was going to assassinate for treason the chairman of the Joint Chiefs because he didn't support him on January the 6th, who said just in recent days he was going to execute Liz Cheney with a firing squad, 9 guns pointed and shooting at her face. A man who has said that he was going to shut down CBS because he didn't like how they edited an interview. A man who said he was going to be a dictator from day one. A man who said he was going to terminate the Constitution. A man who said he was going to use the army and he was going to use the National Guard on his political opponents. An autocrat who decides to be a dictator on day one, who decides to arrest all those who he doesn't like, who's talked about assassinating generals that aren't sufficiently loyal to him, has complained to his chief of staff that his generals should be more like Hitler's generals. Seems to make sense for leaders of both parties to seek common ground, if it's possible at all. And I will tell you, a lot of Democratic leaders we've talked to this past week, since the election, have told Mika and me it's time for a new approach.
I mean, critics of MSNBC, it's not just the ones who support Donald Trump, argue that MSNBC's coverage has been excessively negative and biased against Donald Trump, and I tend to share that view. You know, most critics point to the instances where MSNBC's hosts, such as Joe Scarborough and Mika, his partner, you know, they use inflammatory language, including comparing Trump to Hitler, and they've made claims that Trump advocated for extreme actions like assassination and the termination of the Constitution. So critics all around the world, you know, they believe that MSNBC has really contributed to a climate of hostility. Even us in Wakanda, we see that. And so they've contributed to this climate of hostility towards Trump and his supporters. But I think now there is some kind of liberation. Trump supporters, they are now feeling free to actually celebrate Trump and celebrate who they support. So I don't think there's anything MSNBC can do with that. But all we want is to heal America. Once America is healed, the world will be healed. And us in Wakanda too will be happy. Everyone will be happy. We stop the wars.
Let's remember, like when we're talking about the secretary here and Hegseth and his white supremacist and extremist tattoos on his body, he is also a person, if he is in this job, who will be having the discussion with Donald Trump about sending the military into communities to police U.S. citizens.
It seems everybody who supports Trump, or, I mean, who is associated with Trump, is just, you know, hunting season, I would say open season for them when it comes to MSNBC. That's my personal opinion. And they have been doing all this and they have not even formally come out to respond to all these criticisms that we have. Not just Donald Trump supporter, but most sensible people around the world, including us in Wakanda. We see it for what it is. So the network's programming continues to really go down this path, and to future commentators like these who are critical of Trump and his policies. But maybe MSNBC's likely views its coverage as holding Trump accountable. Yeah, I think they do think that that's what they're trying to do. And they think they are providing a platform to voice opposing views. But, I mean, even if you want to hold Trump accountable, the way you go about it is blatantly biased, in my personal opinion. So the lady was criticizing Pete Hegseth. And now let's listen to what Pete, just a snippet of what Pete Hegseth's state of mind is, how he sees the country, how his own point of view.
We're now allowing people who used to be men or women join, and then after that we pay for medical or physical transitions to another gender, which by definition makes them non-deployable. and non-trainable for your, because they're, and the same thing with asthma medication or inhalers. Like when you're in basic training, you can't have an inhaler when you're doing your exercises because you can't count on having an inhaler in a combat situation. Well, if you're medically dependent on drugs to maintain your gender or a particular balance of chemicals inside your body,
Makes sense
you're
to
by
me.
definition non-deployable. And so they'd have soldiers who can't train, can't deploy, have been on the books, and yet everyone has to be careful about what pronoun you use with them.
I mean, isn't that just common sense? It seems America have come to this state where I have to show my Wakanda friends that is this the country you're walking all the way to Mexico to go in illegally to face all these? I mean, the way people see things in America sometimes is mind-boggling. But I think this guy makes sense to me as a neutral in this situation. He makes a lot of sense. But no, despite the critical coverage of Trump and his supporters, we all know Joe Scarborough and Mika last week or 2 weeks ago, they went to meet with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. And guess what? Not surprising, the meeting drew lots of criticisms from Joe Scarborough, from the left, I would say, in general. You know, and they felt that Joe and Mika have really undermined their credibility and legitimized Trump. They don't want to legitimize Trump and make him look normal in their eyes. But, well, despite all of the often criticisms of the media, no, Trump technically has historically maintained a very complex relationship with it. He was part of it for a long time. And he has frequently granted interviews and sought coverages, even from outlets that were unfavorable to him. So some speculate that Trump sees media or media attention, positive or negative, as some kind of beneficial, and he enjoys engaging with those who cover him. So I don't blame him. He knows the game. He's been around it for a very long time, and I'm sure that's what has got him elected again. You know, to be a politician is all about media, communication. If you don't know how to communicate, like we saw with, sadly, Kamala Harris with the word salad, even his own party members say she's just word salad, saying a lot, but saying nothing. Anyway, critics of this meeting between Joe, Mika, and Trump have argued that it gave legitimacy to NBC's. Well, critics of this meeting we just talked about between Joe, Mika, and Trump, they argue that it gave legitimacy to MSNBC hosts who had consistently made inflammatory and potentially false claim about Trump. You know, those on the right, to be said, not on the left. It's the opposite. Or the left thinks about this a whole new, I would say, betrayal of the left. But some say that Trump should have focused, on more pressing issues facing the country rather than meeting with Joe and Mika. So there's also criticism from the right that he shouldn't have met with them after all what they had said about him, that he's Hitler, he is a dictator or whatnot. But in my personal opinion, the way we see it, and where I'm from, the way we are looking at the politics in America, we do think highly critically of MSNBC's coverage of Donald Trump. And most of my compatriots, they argue that it is biased. That is MSNBC. It is technically biased, dishonest, and potentially dangerous. So I think that's why they are trying to make amends, to bring it mainstream, because most people have unsubscribed from their platform. And they believe that MSNBC has really contributed to a climate of division and hostility through its inflammatory rhetoric and willingness to spread unsubstantiated claims. So I'd like to know your thoughts in the comment section below. How lefties have really lost Donald Trump. But to me, Donald Trump is a very welcoming person. He's always open, like he opened himself to Mika and Joe Scarborough. So you guys in America should heal yourself so that it will spread across the world. If you guys are not healed, they say when the elephant is fighting, it's the grass that suffers. So come on, you guys need to sort out yourself so that us in Wakanda too can technically benefit a little bit from it. Not that we are dependent on you guys. No, we are not, and we don't want to be dependent on you guys. But you should sort out yourself so that the effects of your mismanagement does not trickle down in Wakanda. Thanks for tuning into the Black Coffee Podcast. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.